A Republican mayor has endorsed Kamala Harris over Donald Trump. Now, in an op-ed written for AZ Central, John Giles, who is the mayor of Mesa, Arizona, writes, why, as a Republican mayor, I support Kamala Harris over Trump. Arizona Republicans like me can emulate Senator John McCain's motto of country first and beat back Trump and his threat to democracy. So I read the whole piece because I was curious what kind of arguments he's gonna make. And he didn't just simply lean into the threat to democracy argument. He actually made a lot of interesting points. But I also think that this was an effort to promote a very specific person as Kamala Harris's running mate. So bear with me as I get through the excerpts. He writes, our party used to stand for the belief that every Arizonan, no matter their background or circumstances, should have the freedom, opportunity, and security to live out their American dream. But since Donald Trump refused to accept the outcome of the 2020 election, Republicans have yet to course correct. The Republican Party, with Trump at its helm, continues down the path of political extremism, away from focusing on our fundamental freedoms. Now more than ever, we need leaders who will put country over party. Later in the piece, he gets into very specific things that the Biden-Harris administration had accomplished for the state of Arizona. So he says significant reforms to immigration and border policies that would have addressed the crisis at our southern border were blocked by Trump because he didn't want the problem solved. He wanted to exploit it for personal political gain. And then he notes that Biden, with Harris as the VP, of course, provided funding for the Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport. They updated the public transit systems thanks to federal government grants. He applauded Biden for passing the CHIPS Act, which for whatever reason gets under your skin a little bit, Cenk, whenever it's applauded publicly, but okay. But he also mentioned something in the piece that caught my attention. He writes that Arizona leaders like McCain and Senator Mark Kelly have embodied the commitment to country over party. And it's the same high caliber of character and leadership I see in Vice President Harris. I think this was just an effort to try to get Harris to pick Mark Kelly.
Hey, don't scroll away. Come back. Because before the video continues, we just want to urge you to lend your support to TYT. You power our honest reporting. You do it at tyt.com/team, and we love you for it.
Yeah, I thought the same exact thing when I read it. I thought, that's interesting. This brother might want to switch parties at some point. Like, I'm being literal. I'm not saying that like, oh, you might want to switch parties. Like, so this is the kind of step you would do before you flip parties. But then the second thing and predominant thing that I thought is, Arizona praising Mark Kelly. This is a way of going, look, Mark Kelly even brings in Republicans, right? So now Mark Kelly is more of a corporate Democrat, establishment Democrat, has never not loved a thing a donor has suggested. So a Republican who also loves donors liking Mark Kelly and wanting to be on the ticket is not shocking, right? And I'm not sure that guy, look, obviously I don't know all the policies of the mayor of Mesa, Arizona, right? But knowing corporate Democrats and corporate Republicans, on economic issues, I would be shocked if you could find more than a 20% difference between his positions and Mark Kelly's.
I totally agree. I would say more than a 10% difference.
Yeah.
And look, as this race develops and as we learn more about the potential VP picks, what's really standing out to me is the incentives that Kamala Harris might have to choose a Mark Kelly over a Tim Walz. It appears that obviously progressives are already backing Kamala Harris, so picking someone like Tim Walz, who I would want her to choose, doesn't really make much sense. But knowing that the Trump ticket is gonna attack her rather viciously over immigration, someone like Mark Kelly might actually help balance the allegations of open borders under the Biden administration. So I don't know, we'll see.
But it could also reinforce that Kamala Harris is wrong, right? Or was wrong or didn't do enough.
But okay, and to be clear, like we've been on the record, I've been on the record. I I do think that the Biden administration failed miserably on immigration, absolutely miserably. Okay, so that is gonna be a problem for Kamala Harris. It was gonna be a problem for Biden as well. It didn't really matter if it was Biden or Harris, right?
Right, so look, our point of view on immigration, and Anna and I agree, is nuanced. We don't think we should be cruel to immigrants. We think that we believe in an asylum process. We believe in a lot more people being allowed in legally, but just the mess that we had at the border with no policy was not helpful at all. So that's why we disagree with the Biden administration's policies. But in this particular case, the bigger problem is a political one rather than a policy one, because the minute you put Mark Kelly as a VP nominee, if you do, they're gonna JD Vance him. Here's what I mean by that. The first thing that happened with JD Vance is you called Trump American Hitler, you called Trump American Hitler, and all the terrible things that you've said about Donald Trump. So do you guys even agree? And so they're gonna do the same thing with Mark Kelly and Kamala Harris. Mark Kelly's for tougher immigration policies, but Kamala Harris didn't do it. Do you guys disagree? And it keeps highlighting the problems that Kamala Harris had at the border and on the immigration issue rather than mitigating it, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's not a bad point, and I do think that that could potentially hurt Kamala Harris. I want to just make a side note about that attack toward JD Vance. How JD Vance used to be very critical of Donald Trump, and then suddenly he starts promoting Donald Trump. And look, we know why that happened. We know that he did that for his own political gain, right? I don't know, and I honestly don't think that JD Vance has really changed his opinion on Donald Trump, but that doesn't matter. What I think doesn't matter. What matters is whether or not that attack on JD Vance is resonating with independent or Republican voters. And I'm here to say that Democratic voters are different from Republican voters. Republican voters want to welcome people with open arms if they say that they made a mistake and they now think that Donald Trump is great. Okay, they actually want to build broader coalitions, whereas on the left, it's a little different.
So that's another good point, which is that, so, I mean, you can call Trump Hitler, and the minute you say you're okay with him, they're like, bygones be bygones.
Totally, yeah.
Right? But on the Democratic side, are we sure that every transgression of Mark Kelly is going to be forgiven? I'm not sure of that at all, right? And so there's not much that's forgiven on the left side. And this is all, I mean, there's so many ironies and nuances here, because Mark Kelly is very conservative corporate within the Democratic Party. But now people on the far left like that? I can't keep up anymore. It's so crazy. Because like, as old school Bernie supporters, we want economic populism. And so we want to push Kamala Harris to be more economically populist. But people on our left are like, no, she's great, we're coconut pilled. Don't have her change a thing, she's wonderfully progressive. I'm like, what? I don't even know where the political spectrum is anymore.
I know, it's weird.
So will they look at Mark Kelly, who's clearly a corporate Democrat, and be like, great, I'm bald head pilled, astronaut pilled, I don't know.
Well, okay, look, to be fair, and there's no study on this, there hasn't been an investigation into it, it's just based on what you see on social media. They're pushing hard for Tim Walz over Mark Kelly, to be fair. Progressives, yes.
Yeah, that I agree with, that makes sense, right? So look guys, whether you are progressive or you're not, it's important that we be clear about terms and what they mean, right? So to me, the thing that matters most is I've never seen Mark Kelly disagree with a donor. Donor says jump, he says how high. If you want, he'll go all the way to space for you if you're a donor, okay? Whereas Tim Walz, I don't know his relationship with the donors. I do know what he got done in Minnesota, and it was a lot of progressive policies, both socially and economically. So that's the thing we can all get behind because that makes sense and it's backed up by the facts. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, we really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.